Oh, welcome. And I'm so grateful to have you here with me today as we begin the process of reading Junebug. And again, I'm so grateful for any and all of you that have purchased Junebug and know the story and would love for you to any questions you have as we go along, please hop in there. Like Junebug was created to start a dialogue, right? Around whatever it is that it pulls up in you. So please reach out. And without further ado, what I plan to do is read for 30 minutes and we'll find a nice, comfy place to break and we'll come back in together the next time with a recap and we'll hop right in. Junebug. My story begins in this sleepy little railroad town. It sits off the interstate in the foothills. With no through traffic, the town hasn't had much influx of new people or new thoughts in decades. This is a town of secrets. From the outside, it's a cute little town that hasn't been touched much by change. The landscape is filled with rolling hills and streams. There's a creek big enough to swim in, running right through town. But don't look too closely at the chipping paint and the sagging porches. Everyone is related to everyone. Now, this is a place no one leaves, a place where nothing is quite as it seems. I live on a tiny little farm right outside of town in a ramshackled house. I lived there most of my life, except for a short stint in the city in the very beginning. Now, the house is a constant work in progress, and the family consists of me, my two younger brothers, and my parents. Or so they say, I'm not so sure. Can I really be related to these people? Is it really their blood that runs through my veins? Now, the younger of my two brothers, Sam, seems to be on the outside too. He doesn't seem like the rest, so I keep him very close at all times for safety's sake. I don't want them to be able to get to him, to his mind. Now, the middle boy, Kenny, he's meaner than a snake. They've gotten to him already. Now, our small little piece of property is surrounded by a larger farm owned by Mr. Stanford. He has about 100 acres, and the old man has taken a shine to me and my love for animals. He has a beautiful Irish setter named Joe. I love the way his shiny coat feels sliding through my fingers. Seeing the old man out in the pasture, he's tall and lean. He has a walking stick in one hand and his faithful companion is on the other. It makes me smile from the inside out. So I'm off and running, and I cover the distance between us as fast as my legs will carry me. And if I'm lucky, we get to spend the day in the garden. He loves to teach me as we go along, telling me about each plant and what it needs to be healthy and strong. This is my favorite time. Maybe because he feels like I'm worth teaching. Whatever the day turns into, chores are always more fun when there's someone else's. Now, Mr. Stanford lets me graze my horse Ginger in his pasture, and I get to roam the grounds whenever I want. It's my playground. Those beautiful hills and cliffs are my refuge. And by the time I reach that creek, I feel the grime from home is washed away and forgotten. For the moment, freedom and laughter replace my reality. Now, Grandma, she's my angel. When I'm at Grandma's, all of Dad's stupid rules go right out the window. At home, I'm not allowed to be held or rocked. We don't want some spoiled brat, he would say. And when I'm with Grandma, I get all the love and touch I want. She holds me, she rocks me, and she sings me her funny little songs. How much is that dog in the window? She loves me, and she loves me right. When I'm at Grandma's, I get to be the favorite. She can barely turn around without stepping on me. And I always want to be on her lap. The women would be sitting around the table gabbing away, and I'd be there looking up longingly. My mother would say, go play, leave Grandma alone for a while now, Mom would tell me. No, no, she's all right, Grandma would say. Come here, sweet Junebug. And I'd climb up and cuddle up in her arms. The connection most people have with their mother, that's the connection I have with Grandma. Grandma and Mom all rolled into one. But the problem is I don't live there. I only get her sometimes, right? And she isn't my mom. My support and safety is once removed. Now, I have a memory when I was quite small. I'm left in the driveway in an old Rambler station wagon while my mom goes in to talk to my grandma. I'm told to wait. I have on a little yellow dress and a little white hat, and my feet don't quite reach the edge of the seat. I'm in the front, and I can't see out, and I'm afraid to move. After a few minutes, I hear the squeak of the old screen door and the swing of the old gate. Mom opens the back door of the car and takes a little round suitcase from the back seat. She then crosses around the front, opens the passenger door, and she scoops me up and carts me inside. Now, I wasn't sad being dropped off there because I got a little vacation. Only after a few days of being there, the anxiety would start. It was as if they were calling me. I would be like, why would you want to go back there? My brain would yell. It's safe here. People don't hurt you, and you're the favorite. In my gut, there's this feeling that I had to get back home to make sure things are okay. The battle inside increases until I'm asking to go home. Maybe it's the feeling of being dropped off there to get me out of, the house. That became Mom's way of fighting for me after a while, dropping me off at Grandma's. The separation gives us all a rest for a second. Even though I love being there, it's a weird feeling knowing why. Now, my first memory of my father is far from a pleasant one. The three of us lived in the city for a short while at the beginning of my life. Times were hard on my mom. She was moved away from her family. She had never really been anywhere, much less lived anywhere other than her sleepy little town. Now, she was far away with no car, and her pride was really in the way of admitting what life was really like with her new husband and baby. The baby cried all the time, especially if her daddy was around. I was already scared to death of him. And they think kids don't remember things from this young of age, but I'm here to tell you that we do. So on this particular day, Mom had gone out to run errands. Now, she was allowed this luxury within an allotted amount of time, whatever he deemed appropriate for the task. It was like a curfew of sorts. And I was left alone with my dad. On cue, I begin to cry, and when he enters my room, I begin to howl. He checks my diaper, and with his touch, my cries grow even louder and even more intense. There's nothing to do, right? This is in his head. There's nothing to do but lift her and give her a little shake and see if that shuts her up. No, that didn't work. How about a good smack? What do you know? That didn't work either. What now? He lays me down and he leaves the room, and my howls are deafening at this point. He shuts the door, pops a beer, and paces in circles around this tiny little apartment. Now, the cries are wearing on his every nerve. In his mind again, how long can she possibly last? He's not able to bear it one more moment. Oh, wait, first another beer. That always helps. He then decides he's going to have to teach me a lesson. He lifts me from the crib saying, "You better shut up if you know what's good for you." I didn't. Another good shake, more crying, few more smacks. Finally exhausted and in shock, I'm gasping for air. Then the quiet. Only the heavy breathing from the crying so hard for so long remains. He leaves the room, quite proud of himself. When Mom returns, right on time, he says, "I taught that screaming kid a lesson." He's gloating. "Finally, I got her to shut up. You just have her spoiled rotten." Now, every hair on my mom's body stands at attention, and she quickly takes the few steps to the baby's room. She's horrified. The bruises are already beginning to appear on this little baby's body, and she's quiet, eerily quiet. Now the tears are streaming down my mom's face, holding me in close to her body, and she makes a beeline for the door, thinking if she can just get to the door, maybe she can get to the neighbors. She never made it. There was screaming, hitting, crying. She was still fighting for me then. They settled on moving back home, back to the safety and comfort of her family. Oh, of course, there were promises of no more hitting. Now, I watched this from my safe spot in the corner from above. I watched it all. It was before I was called to the other place. I was about 6 months old at this time. We remember. Eventually, we always remember. The boys and I are all 3 years and some months apart. I'm the oldest, then Kenny, and Sam's the baby. He's my pride and joy. I feel as if I birthed him myself. He's so weak and so tiny. My goal for him is to be a kid, to believe in fairy tales, Santa Claus, and the Easter Bunny. I want him to have that part of life that I'm missing, the magic. Now, Sam had a real hard time at the beginning and had to stay in the hospital for a really long time after he was born. The waiting, it was bad enough to wait the whole time he was in her belly. But now this, she's back home and he had to stay in the hospital. And he's there all by himself. Here we are, we're living life in the same old way like nothing's happening. It feels like it's never going to end. Now, my mom, she sets up the crib right outside of their bedroom door. There's a little alcove, and my bedroom is right next to theirs, and I can see the crib from my bed. I can't take my eyes off it. I keep imagining him being in there sleeping. It won't be long now, Mom says. Then finally the day comes when they get to bring him home. There's no sleeping the night before. I've been waiting for so long. Now, I'm not allowed to go with them to the hospital, right? They had to go into the city. They won't let me. They say, Kenny and me, well, we have to stay home here with Grandma. Now, it's a really long ride for Kenny, Mom says. Well, let him stay with Grandma, I sob. I want to go. No, you're not going. Now shut up about it and go play. That's what I get. And I'm 7, so I wait and I wait and I wait. Grandma does her best to keep me distracted, but I can't pay attention to any of her stories today. Hours later, I hear the tires on the gravel drive and I bolt from the house. I'm about to pee my pants. I'm so excited. And Mom has him pulled in real close to her chest. Wait, I can't see. Let them get out of the car, June. Grandma takes a hold of my shoulder and she gently pulls me back so that Mom can open the door. Be patient until they get inside. More waiting. It's like Christmas, the anticipation and all of the waiting. After getting settled inside, finally the blankets are pulled away and I finally get to get a look at him. I'm stunned. There are no words. He is the scrawniest, ugliest little thing I have ever seen. He kind of looks like an alien. His head's bony, really big eyes, and he's really, really skinny. Not at all what I was expecting. And I feel the tears of disappointment about to spill over. But my attention is drawn to my mother's voice as she explains to Grandma. They won't know about his brain function until he's older. It could go either way. Either he could have this genius IQ, or he could have learning disabilities. They just don't know. Well, my heart stops and it begins to grow with compassion for this pitiful looking little thing. And I giggle to myself. I usually do fall for the run of the litter most times. So I decide then and there that he's going to be just fine. And I kneel by his crib through the night praying. I make promises to God that I will keep him safe if he'll just let this funny little creature be okay. Mom finds me there in the morning, still perched on the stool, my knees swollen. I'm stuck there between the rails of the crib. Mom closes the door to their room and quietly works to set me free. There's no need for your dad to know, she says. We're just going to get you out of here and you need to run on and get breakfast. It takes a pretty good size jar of Vaseline to get me free. Now, before long, I began to see the results of my prayers. The little thing begins to grow. I hold true to my word. I try to anyway. The little dude's rarely out of my sight. Now, he is a ball of light once he finally gets going. He never stops moving and he never stops talking. By the age of 3 or 4, he has bleeding ulcers. Now, he's never been touched, but he's a sensitive boy and I can't protect him from the feelings. With my prayers answered, I have a job to do. Kenny and I have it the toughest. Kenny is huge compared to me. He passed me up by about the age of 5. Dad worked hard to make a mini-me out of Kenny. They even have the same name. I can remember Dad giving him sips of beer when he was just learning to walk, just to watch him stumble around, just for laughs. He thought it was hilarious. Didn't seem too funny to me. Everyone around would just chuckle and watch. It seemed that there was always someone watching the craziness, not speaking, just watching. I mean, he was just a little boy. I guess it was one of the many battles Mom decided not to fight. I think you get tired of fighting after a while. He tells Kenny, if somebody hurts you, you hurt him back, and you hurt him worse. Now, the accident part was left out. So if Kenny got hurt, someone paid. But he was a very handsome little boy with a smile that just sparkled, at least in the beginning, when he was free, when he was still free, when he wasn't worried about not being a sissy. He laughed. He has the most amazing laugh. When Kenny laughs, everybody laughs. But he rarely spoke, and he didn't say a word until he was about 3 years old. Everyone thought something was the matter with him, but he just didn't have anything to say. He watched. And when he finally spoke, it came out in complete sentences. He was taught that women were stupid, and that included Mom. And he challenged her at every turn in his silence. He appeared to be listening while doing whatever he wanted to. Now, I remember one time, Mom's after him about something, and she's chasing him around with a fly swatter. Do you want to spank him? Mom yells at him. Kenny stops, turns around and says, will that make you feel better? When it came to school, they had little, if any, expectations for Kenny. He could have F's and D's and go by without a word while I'd be in trouble over a B. And the look of hopelessness, coupled with a deep, burning anger, took up camp in his eyes. It wasn't that he couldn't do it or that he wasn't smart enough. He just wanted to see if anyone cared, and they didn't. And that just became more fuel for his fire. Now, Dad got him sweet on the liquid gold with all those sips. Now, they would head out into the woods to cut firewood with a 12-pack, and this was well before Kenny was old enough to drive. So by junior high and high school, Dad's pushing him into these activities like boxing or football or wrestling. Dad wanted Kenny to be tough. Dad wanted people to be afraid of him. Kenny wasn't mean on the inside. He just had to act like it. And he didn't really like hitting people, but he was made to. So I guess it just became a way of life. And by high school, he was smoking and drinking and fighting. He was the boy everyone was afraid of. He was following right in Daddy's footsteps, mini-me, accomplished. Now, by the time he was 13, he and Dad were about the same size. Dad had to hold on to that power position in the house, so the games really started. Dad was always challenging him to see if he was still the strongest. He wanted to make sure Kenny still knew that he could kick his ass. So he coupled that fear with making him feel little on the inside, right? And this was insurance for when the inevitable day came. How do they do it? The watchers. It's really hard to stand by and watch someone get hurt and do nothing. Dad came home one day with a new television for the living room. Now, we only had one television. So Dad put the old one in Kenny's room on the wall that we share. He was allowed to keep it on all night. Kenny was always trying to keep me out of trouble, and he would try to coach me on being invisible. It was his specialty. He had it down. Stay out of his way and be quiet. Stay close to the edges of the room and stop talking and stop with the questions. It was the talking part I just could never seem to master. It didn't seem to matter anyway. Right? Kenny knew that. Dad was waiting. Like a kid throwing a temper tantrum. Like there didn't have to be a reason. He lived by the rules of manhood that he taught Kenny. If you hurt, somebody has to pay. And that somebody, way too often, was me. So thank you for joining me here today. And please grab your copy of Junebug and start the conversation with the girls in your family and the young boys. And let's see if we can create a new trajectory for the youth and humans on our planet, right? Pick up your copy of Junebug at CherieDoyen.com on the books page. Have a great day.